Hi, Dr. Marianne here. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Dyslexia Solutions. I have really enjoyed having guests being interviewed who are dyslexic and have mastered the dyslexia, telling their stories, whether, about being in elementary school. And I just love one story after the next. And I think they really are inspiring to you as an audience. I would appreciate your comments and your questions when you hear these interviews, but I'm going to jump right in and introduce Kim Mason to you, who is a dyslexia genius, and she started Women Cultivating Greatness. Now, how amazing is that? So Kim, come on to the stage.
Hello.
There we are. And we're just going to talk today in our audience. We wish we could see you all because we're just going to pretend we're at a coffee table, having our cup of Java this morning, and just a low key but very invigorating conversation, because we know dyslexia is at the heart of all of our passions to want to help dyslexic people. And if you're an adult, you may have dyslexia and you're recognizing symptoms that your children have, that you had, who struggle with reading. And we want to give you some tools to help you know how to encourage them, as well as how to help them. So Kim, tell us a little bit about your elementary school years, struggling with reading, maybe any anxiety you experienced, or separation from peers who thought of you differently.
Yes, that's a very interesting subject. I think I first started noticing that something was different with me for third grade. It was the third grade. I wasn't really keeping up the way the other kids were doing. They would tell me, oh, that spelling test was easy. I studied last night. But I had started studying on Monday for spelling tests on Friday in order to make a decent grade. So I remembered feeling isolated and sad and being fearful of being called on to read or anything like that, because I could read, but I would skip over words. It's kind of like I just wouldn't see them. And I did get teased a little bit by some of the kids, and I would just try to ignore them. But it's very stressful. It's very stressful to, and I think part of what really drove me to try to keep trying and trying is because there was a classroom where they would put all the kids that had behavioral problems, couldn't keep up, who had physical and mental disorders. And you never saw those kids at lunch or anywhere. And I just did not want to tell anyone that I was having problems in school, because I didn't want to be put in that class. To me, it was like no resources for them. So I lived in elementary school with a lot of fear.
Yeah, and what a stigma, and it's not that you even needed to be with that group of students because you had a learning difference. You didn't have a disability. And that's how I'm so excited the schools are understanding that, and we're sharing that with parents, that dyslexia is a learning difference. The brain works differently, but you guys are the creatives, and we need that creative thinking that you bring to the table. But we just don't need the dyslexic people dropping out of high school. And that percentage is up to 35% of the high school dropouts are dyslexic. So we want to change that and start giving kids the help. So we say that kids who aren't reading at third grade level, by the time they enter fourth grade, are at risk of dropping out of high school, going into crime, going into gangs, and prison, suicide. What about the home being a battlefield? When kids aren't being able to read, we talk about the home's a battlefield. I had a grandparent say he was raising his granddaughter and she didn't get along with anybody until she was in our reading program. And now she gets along with her peers. She goes to school. She's not getting detentions. And we say the home can become a playground once dyslexic kids start reading. Can you remember the climate of your home when you were young and not reading, and even going into middle school?
Yes, I think that it wasn't anything way back then that people really knew about. And so
You're not
I
that
know,
old.
huh? And I
You're not that
know
old. You're
that's
like way
true.
back then.
Yeah. And I know that both of my sisters have forms of dyslexia as well. And I do remember like trying to help my younger sister to read, and she was in special ed classes probably all of her life. But it was, I was raised by a single parent.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
not to say that she would not have done something if she knew something, but neither one of us said anything to her. So it was just me and my two sisters trying to help each other. So it wasn't horrible. It wasn't like,
Okay.
but it was more stressful for me going to school and having to deal with the other kids.
Well, that's a beautiful story. Your mother instilled in you guys the instinct to help each other, and just modeled for you love and compassion.
Yeah,
Did you say both sisters had dyslexia or just your younger one?
both of
Both of
them.
them. So I
Yeah.
think your mom had it.
Yes, definitely. It runs, in hindsight, when I think about the things that she used to do and say, it was definitely there. But, as we talked, I didn't find out I was dyslexic until I was 30. So, it just wasn't anything, they would say, and I didn't want to be labeled as slow. So it was just very stressful growing up because I was hiding everything and I couldn't be myself. And that's why both of us do what we do now, so that kids don't feel like they have to hide, because dyslexics have talent, a lot of talent.
That's right. And I bet your mother saw that, because mothers see the strengths in their children. And when she saw your reading challenges and you and your sisters, it probably just broke her heart, because she knew that's where she struggled, and what can she do she didn't know what to do to help you guys.
Right.
And the schools weren't addressing it, maybe some,
No.
but if they weren't teaching phonics, they weren't addressing it. If when my kids went to private school, fortunately we made some sacrifices to put them in private school when they were younger, up to fourth grade, and they were teaching phonics. And
Yeah.
my daughter had to stay, I think, 2 days a week after school with other peers. And she's not dyslexic, but just because phonics is tricky, and maybe that lasted a month. And then my son had to go to summer school between first and second grade to get him up to reading level.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he's not dyslexic, but in the private schools and in the charter schools, they have a little bit more, I don't know, they are maybe more open to teaching phonics. We went away from it for a while, and we just have to keep our schools on focus to teach phonics and the science of
Yes.
reading. So
Yes.
Kim,
I have
what's
a similar story. My
okay?
daughter went to private school and until the fourth grade as well. And phonics was, that was every day, all day long. And it's important.
And it's like a new language. When I first was reintroduced to it after being out of school for 20 years, I was like, oh my gosh. But, it really instilled a passion in me to be part of the team that helps others learn. And that's why education became my third career. I wanted to
Yes.
get into it and help others. What was tell me about your degree in college and how studying in college was for you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I do have a bachelor's of science in psychology. I love people. And so that's why I wanted to study psychology. It was very challenging because I had to write a lot of papers with that degree plan. I know I went through school very slowly. It wasn't a 4-year degree. It was more like a 6-year degree.
Interesting.
Because in order to be able to process all the information, I didn't take 5 classes at a time.
Right.
So I took my time going through it. And I came up with systems and mnemonics and rhymes and things to help me remember the information. I had some really great instructors here in the Houston area, the college professors. I would ask them if I could turn in my paper 4 or 5 days before it was due, and if they wouldn't mind reading it and just letting me know, did I forget something? And that was very helpful. Not one instructor told me that they wouldn't do it. They
Oh,
all
that's a good tip.
supported me. Yeah. And so I stayed in the library a lot, sometimes until midnight, and I got my degree as an adult. So my daughter was 4 years old, and I was finishing up my college degree. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot to say about going back to school when you are an adult, because you are focused on getting an A. You're
Yes.
not happy with a C or incompletes. You learn what it takes to get that A, and you do what the professor requires. So
Right.
I was actually an adjunct professor for a year, and I was able to recognize the students who had dyslexia, and I gave them more time on their tests, and they had their assessments that showed, that demonstrated they did have it. So I was able to give them accommodations. Did
Yes.
you have accommodations at all in college?
Yes, yes, because that's how I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed when I was in at the University of Houston,
Okay.
and I was able to get what I particularly qualified for was like in some classes I can do the tests verbally, like if they asked me a question, I could answer it, and then just like you said, the extra time. Professors would give me an extra hour to do it, and it made a big difference. And so I would tell people to advocate for themselves and for what they need. And also, now that I know about it, to know what your learning style is so you can be an advocate for yourself, the way information is presented to you. And there's 4 learning styles. If you're audio or visual or kinesthetic or read, write. And I'm definitely kinesthetic. I do very well if someone shows me, okay, Kim, click here on the computer, click here, and then I can usually pick up on it and be fine with it. And then my second one is read, write. I take notes for everything, and it also helps me stay organized.
Yes. And I think that's important for a lot of adults also. I have a notepad here, but rather than have my head down all the time, I'd rather re-listen to a recording and then take my notes.
Yeah.
And it just helps it sink in. And I always want to highlight things that stand out, because maybe that's what I'm going to share with someone later. May I share a brief story with you that I had a friend who wrote a book, John Rodriguez, that he was a dropout of high school, but he went to Harvard. And it was so amazing. He shared the story how he went to junior college, and he actually was at Berkeley and then transferred to Harvard, but so he went to Harvard, but he got his degree from Berkeley because he had more time there. But there was professor connections that he had, and what he would do is organize study groups and have the books that had to be read assign different portions to different people in the study group, and they would give the summary. And that's how he learned the book. And that
Wow.
was such an amazing testimony. You find a way that works for you. And, I think God just shows you the direction to go.
Yeah.
And, I'm so glad that you are now serving as you feel God has directed you with women, helping them cultivate greatness. You
Yeah.
want to share a little bit about your team there? I saw your video on your website, and you can share at the end how people can find you. But I've been in a lot of different networks and received awards from the networking groups. You could see them on my wall. And so when I saw your networking group, it just warmed my heart, because as I've worked full time in a home hospital setting, I haven't been able to network like that. And I do miss the women. And so tell us a little bit about cultivating greatness.
Yeah, so Women Cultivating Greatness is a nonprofit 501c3. And what we do is help women who learn differently. I really don't say disabilities too much, but just women who learn differently, and they have ADD, ADHD, or dyslexia. Once a month, we hold classes, and these classes were created with me and an educational diagnostician that specializes in dyslexia, so that we could make sure that we're hitting on all the learning styles in the classes, so they're on our website, womencultivatinggreatness.com. And so we have memory techniques, time management, and a bunch of other classes to help. And then we also have fun activities that we love to do. We provide tools and kind of techniques. I have a list of apps that you can use to kind of manage your time and help you read. There are, so it's just resources.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
You're also serving in the workplace as a mental health counselor,
advocate.
therapist.
So I believe that mental health issues and problems are felt definitely by people who learn differently, because you're trying to manage your way through this world and you don't think like everyone else. And so I know I spent a lot of time putting myself down, feeling like I was dumb or stupid, and learning that I was dyslexic was so eye-opening for me. I tell people it was the best day I ever had, because I just realized that I was just made differently. And I know what my—
You weren't broken.
Yeah, I wasn't broken.
Yeah.
I know my talents. So yeah.
Yeah. I just want to encourage people that have doctorates, if you're watching this, because we can go into the school place and actually offer mental health support. And I was just trying to reflect on some of the things I did in a home hospital setting when I worked with autistic kids. And I'm going to ask you if you would add to the list, Kim, but I would play games with the kids, board games that were age appropriate. I would read. We would do puzzles that would be age appropriate. And we would take walks around the track and just give people a chance to talk. And of course, sitting in the classroom with an autistic child that would be getting disruptive or disrupt the class, I would be able to walk him out and just talk to him, but engaging him with, I think with the mental health issues now, kids aren't socially interacting like they used to. So we would have board games with multiple students so that they would learn to take turns, and it's okay to lose, but how to be a good loser and how to be a good winner.
Right.
Do those resonate with you as well in the mental health?
Yes, definitely. I am a certified mental health coach, and yes, doing all of those things. I consider that like self-care, because I like coloring in
Yes.
mandalas
Uh-huh.
because it kind of centers me and reduces the stress. So I suggest those kind of things for adults. And I'm just, yeah, it's just very important to kind of give yourself a break. I have a class that I teach called uh, handling fear, and techniques on how to handle fear, because with us going through this pandemic,
Yes.
we had to do a lot of adjusting and things, and it's not like 100% back to what it was before 2020. So yeah, I believe all of those techniques are good. And playing
Well,
games on your phone too.
say that again.
Playing games on your
Games.
phone.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know there's a creative game where you can paint. There's an app that you can paint,
Yes.
and you paint by number. You click a number and it fills up with color. It's just very relaxing. But addressing fear, there's things that you can change and things you can't change.
That's
And
right.
so looking how to handle all those situations, what is in your scope to do, and how do you get the help to do it? But I know our schools need a lot of help. So we're going to wrap this up, but let me uh, give you the opportunity to share some lasting thoughts, final thoughts in your heart that you want to share with our audience. And then I'm going to talk to our audience real briefly after that.
Okay. Well, I want to remind people that they were made perfectly, and that just because you have dyslexia or ADD or ADHD, there are a lot of talents that are associated with people who do have dyslexia, like being able to understand the big picture. If you give me something, I can map it out from A to Z in my mind with in a matter of a few minutes. And I'm very attention to detail. So try to look up, the gifts of being dyslexic and turn those negative thoughts into positive. So Women Cultivating Greatness is my nonprofit organization. Our website is womencultivatinggreatness.com. We have a Facebook group, a community that's growing quickly, and it's our Facebook group is called Learning Skills for Women Who Life Skills for Women Who Learn Differently. And we give tips and techniques and definitions on there to different things. And so I just love what I do. I love what I do.
Good. And if you weren't able to pause and write that information down, I will keep it in the text below this video, but I want to thank you. And if you happen to be, please like and subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't already, because we are giving these inspirational interviews to you free. And if you happen to be in a situation where you can make a donation to our nonprofit or to Kim's nonprofit, Women Cultivating Greatness, our nonprofit is Step by Step Dyslexia Solutions. You can go to our website, dyslexia-solutions.com/donate. Any amount would help. And I'm especially reaching out to those of you who have a concern for mental health right now. I know there's some families who have funds, and there are organizations who have funds, and you want to support mental health. Would you please reach out to Kim or myself, and let's have a discussion of how we can plant the seed of your money and just help children live successful lives in this day and age. So I want to thank you. If you go to my website also, you'll see some books that I've written. And I appreciate you tuning in today and listening to the video in its entirety. So God bless you, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.